Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Don't Mom Alone podcast. I'm your host, Heather McFadden, and this is the place where I get to walk alongside you and connect you with people and resources so you know that you don't mom alone. And in this episode number 425, we're continuing our little tech series. I've invited Joey Odom to the show.
Kids notice at all ages when we are there with them fully and when we're not fully present with them. And I think they become a little bit desensitized over time to believe that what's on our phones is more important than they are. And so this is a cool opportunity to totally reverse that narrative or initiate that great behavior that our kids always know that they're more important than whatever is on our phone.
Joey is a dad and an entrepreneur. He is one of the founders of RO. It's a great app and product that we will talk a little bit about, but mainly our conversation, when I invited him to come on the show, it was to talk about, I thought, my kids' quote unquote addiction with devices. When in reality, we kind of had a different conversation. And I realized a lot of Joey's passion for this topic came from his own missed moments as a dad. And instead of talking about boundaries and rules and regulations, to reframe it to consider the relationship we have with devices and creating a system to help us improve the relationship with the people we love and care about and to model those things. So it was really encouraging to me. He was super encouraging to me. You'll hear why at the start of this conversation. And then great tips, y'all, that hopefully you can implement today. Let's get right to it. Here we go. Joey, thank you and welcome to the Don't Mom Alone podcast.
It's so good to see you. Thank you very, very much for having me.
I'm saying thank you because y'all, I don't know if you know, but before I start recording, I usually pray with my guests. And I started crying already with Joey. And so he doesn't even know I pray with guests, but he said, "Can I just pray for us?" And so I'm thanking him because yes, y'all, we're doing this tech series and it's real. Like I told you, Joey, moms already feel heaps of shame, guilt. They just feel like ill-equipped and overwhelmed. They see the impact on relationships of devices. They don't know what to do. I saw a grandma in a grocery store. A grandma. She is a grandma. She's also a mentor. She's a friend. She goes to church with me. We were talking about this and she said, "It feels like you guys are just always the bad guys." And I said, "Yeah." She's like, "You're having to patrol all the time. You have to stay on top of it all the time." And I said, "Yeah, I don't even like how that piece impacts relationships." So we're going to have a conversation because we know just like with anything, even water, you can drink too much water. You can drown in water. Too much of anything is not a good thing. So having healthy boundaries is a good idea. But doing that and implementing it on an addictive thing, for me as an adult, a teen, a young kid, it's hard to do. So we're going to have this conversation. I'd love if you just introduce your family real quick before we get into it so people know that you're in it with us.
Absolutely. I certainly don't mom alone since I have a wife who is a much better mom than I could ever be. My wife of 19 years, Kristen, we dated in college, have known each other for 20 plus years and been married for 19 of those. We have a 15-year-old son, Harrison, 13-year-old daughter, Gianna. Just as a fun little side note, I'm about 6'5". I'm on the taller side of things. My wife claims 5 feet tall, but she really probably is just a touch under 5 feet tall. So the big question was when we had kids, what on earth will they look like? So when they're so far, Harrison's taken after me and Gianna's taken after mom. But I did tell my wife after Harrison was born and he was a 9-pound baby, I told her, "You're just going to have to find a smaller father for the second one. I'm sorry." So that's our family. Yes. And luckily she didn't. Luckily she stuck with the same father.
With you. That's right. Yeah, that's right. But you're hitting these teen years too.
Yes, absolutely. We are in them, and just fortunately loving them, but figuring out what in the heck do we do. I listening to a lot of David Thomas and Sissy Goff, that's for sure.
We need their help. So I had a gal on once to talk about phones, and her solution was just don't give them one until they go to college. And that was it. That was the solution. So we haven't chosen that solution as a family. We have delayed till 14. But even now, I think people are even choosing 16 as their delay date. We've done gab phones. I think for boys, video games tends to be the place where you have the boundary issues. I think for girls, maybe social media. I'm kind of making generalizations, but there are girls that want to play games. There are boys who enjoy social media and struggle with that in general. So have y'all had these challenges? I mean, we don't have to follow the Odom way, but as you've researched and as you've thought through this, what have you discovered and what are your thoughts on the boundaries related to devices and things?
I would say there's just for everybody listening to begin, just as a quick reminder, we are 15 years into the smartphone experiment. So just as a beginning point, let's all give ourselves a little bit of grace to just start. We are figuring this thing out. This thing that is forming neural pathways in our brain. This thing that is built to have our eyes attached to it. And so we're figuring it out. So for anybody who is feeling the shame, the guilt, the overwhelm, or feeling ill-equipped, we're all ill-equipped. So let's just acknowledge
common ground
that.
Right there. Yeah.
That's exactly right. The fact that you're listening to Don't Mom Alone means that you're in the top 1% of people who are intentional. So that just as a preface, you're doing great, and I mean that. And you used an interesting word, and it's boundaries. And it is boundaries, but the way that we're approaching this, and by the way, Heather, this is from our own personal failures as parents. My co-founder, Heath Wilson, and I, we started our business because we realized we were missing moments with our families. We were getting called out by our 3-year-old and 4-year-old for being on our phones. And we just had series of, experiences where we just fell short. And we said, we got to make this better for our families. And so if we do that, we think we can help a lot of families. So
that's an interesting statement, because I've been thinking about how we're doing this for our kids and their usage.
Yeah.
This came from, as a parent, I am missing moments because, and I think about my kids, the little kid years, it was me sitting in front of a laptop or a computer. I didn't have a travel device when they were little.
Right.
So but now moms, that is it. You can get your constant access. That's very interesting. Okay. So that was your motivation, was a personal missing out.
It was. I mean, I think that the most poignant story for me was when Harrison was 5, when he scored his first soccer goal, and everybody goes crazy. He was the last kid on the team to score a goal. So this is his last, he scores this goal, crowd goes wild, coach picks him up. And of course he looks at the sidelines to me. And what that 5-year-old boy wants to see the look of pride on dad's face. He wants to share that moment and lock eyes. But I missed it. I was looking down at my phone. My wife nudged me in the ribs and said, "You just missed Harrison's first soccer goal." And it just didn't feel right. I knew that I needed to be better for my family, and I wanted my family to be better as a result of my own failures. So and the good thing is, Heather, it's gotten a lot better. It didn't get better then. This is, I think, the thing we have to acknowledge when it comes to our phones is the difficulty with them. And going back to the term boundaries, we think of this a little bit more broadly than boundaries. We think of it really as a relationship with our device. And we all know what happens when you change your relationship with your phone. You will change your relationship with everyone around you. So we look at it in terms of relationships. And so let's take the thought that you just mentioned on just wait till they go to college. That feels to me like the story of Sleeping Beauty, where the young princess, the prophecy is that she will prick her finger on a spinning wheel someday. And so what do her parents do? They get rid of every spinning wheel in the entire kingdom. So there are no spinning wheels left. And so then when she encounters a spinning wheel, the first thing she does is pricks her finger, because she had no idea how to use it. She had no idea how she could have been like the best spinning wheeler in the entire kingdom and would never had a chance if she'd have been taught appropriately. Yeah. And so I think the same thing applies. Hey, we do need to accept the fact that technology is going to exist. Now, that is not to say we hand a phone with Instagram, TikTok, and Safari on it to an 8-year-old. Of course not. That's silly. So we do things like which is great. You start with the Gab phone, and then or something like that, or TrueMe, and then you kind of graduate through it and you begin to form a good relationship with it. So our perspective is that the relationship we have 15 years in with our devices is just totally off right now. And that relationship is that we have it with us 24 hours a day. 91% of us have our phones with us 24 hours a day. When I say with us, I don't mean in the same house. I mean, we don't have to move our feet to get it. So it's with us 24 hours a day. And that is the thing that's going to get in the way of everything else that's important to us. So the moment I want to spend time I want to watch a movie with my daughter, if I have my phone with me, I am going to use it. So we need to learn how to put distance between us and our phones in order to form the relationships that we want. But again, this is the acknowledgement that that's a really hard thing to do, to separate us from our phones. But that really is the answer. And again, it's simple. That is the answer, in the same way that, how do you lose weight? Well, you burn more calories than you consume. Yeah, everybody knows that. That doesn't mean it's easy.
Right.
That means that we all know the answer, but that is the answer. And so that's what we've set out to do. Let's make sure people understand that message, that we need to rethink our relationship with our phones. We need to make an edit, and then let's give the tools where people can actually do that.
I'm back to share one of my favorite companies with y'all. It's called Thrive Cosmetics. And what makes it great, like I've shared with you, it is the unicorn of beauty products, because not only are these products good for the environment and for your body, they're also great products that work and they give back to our communities. So I've talked to you a lot about their Liquid Lash Extensions mascara. Today, I want to talk about their Sheer Strength Hydrating Lip Tint. So this is actually, I keep it in my makeup bag when I'm getting ready in the morning, because what's great is it hydrates my lips at the start of the day and it adds a little bit of tint when I'm starting off my day. I don't want to go full lip just yet. It's lasts up to 6 hours. I don't necessarily need my mirror, and it just glides on really smooth. And so I appreciate having a great way to start the day. You can choose from 6 different tints. It's really lightweight. It's not sticky. It's a lipstick that hydrates my lips and makes them feel softer and smoother. And so if you're looking for a great lip tint, check out Thrive Cosmetics. And again, big fan of their Liquid Lash Extensions mascara. Everything is certified 100% vegan and cruelty-free, made with clean, skin-loving ingredients, no parabens, sulfates, phthalates, and like I said, not compromising the performance. Also, with Thrive Cosmetics, it's in their name, cause they give back. With every purchase, part of their mission is to support organizations that help communities thrive. Those communities where people are battling domestic abuse or homelessness or cancer and so many other things. So if you want to try Thrive Cosmetics to see for yourself, right now you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order when you visit thrivecosmetics.com/DMA. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/DMA for 20% off your first order. No, I think that is a great reframing of, I think there's a visceral response to boundaries. Like it feels restrictive, but relationships feel expansive and you can flourish in them, or they can be toxic, which is the popular word right now. And spending, being a hand's reach away from something 24 hours a day feels a little codependent. We're going to use more relational words. I'm not happy if it's happy. And yeah, that panic of like, I realize when I haven't seen my phone in a while. Or here's the thing, when I've been super productive around the house and I'm like, wait a second, where's my phone? And I look and it's in my purse still. And that's been the most productive hour of my day, was the one I forgot I'd like gone and taken the boys somewhere. It stayed in my purse and I'd like did all the things and then I'd forgotten because it was in a place.
Yeah.
And so, having that place, we keep other things in places and store them.
You nailed it right there, Heather. That is the key. We have a place for everything. Our cars go in the garage. Our keys go in the bowl by the, at the entry table.
Hopefully.
Our silverware goes in the drawer. We have places for all of that. And so the de facto place for our phone has just become our pockets. Yeah. And so we need to, and I think, this, by the way, all of this is hopeful. And there's there's a lot at stake here, but all of this is a very hopeful message. This is, if you read James Clear in Atomic Habits, he talks about most people think they're lazy, but they really just lack a system. You're just a system away from being able to see tremendous change in how you relate to others or how you pursue the things you want. Nir Eyal, who's written Hooked, Indistractable, he has written about this, and he talks about distraction getting in the way. And the opposite of distraction is not focus, he says. The opposite of distraction is traction. And traction is doing the things that you have planned in advance to do. So what most of us do, and distraction is the opposite. Distraction is not doing things that you planned in advance to do. So I sit down to read a book, and the next thing I know, I'm looking up, Atlanta Braves scores on my phone, which goes into the weather, then goes into a bunch of other things. But that's the problem, is that we've lost our ability to gain traction because we have this thing with us that is built to distract us. For the most part, it's built to distract us. And we think that you can reframe that relationship with your phone. And when you do, it'll have that significant difference in your life.
So I could be super motivated. Moms, I feel like, are super motivated for this message. Like, yes, it is distracting. Yes, it takes me off track. Yes, it's impacting not only my relationship with my kids, but my kids' relationship with each other and friends. And yet it feels like in order to have this be a buy-in across the board for the family, that's where I hit a wall.
Yeah.
Whether it's, maybe my husband and I are on board. We're like, yes, we need to do something about this. And that doesn't go very far. And then kids, it's like, they think we're ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. It's not a problem. I don't have a problem. Let's check your hours versus my hours,
Yeah.
So how have you, you are bought in as the spouse, but have you run into couples that don't agree or kids who are fighting back against, we need to have a place, or we need to have a healthy relationship with this device?
Yeah. Yes, we've I would say, and with RO, most of our members are, I would say we're in the well over half of the people who join RO, make the purchase, are moms. And so we are designed for families, but it is moms. And we've had several returns, a few returns, and the most common thing is I couldn't get my husband on board with it. So I'm going to just take this opportunity for women listening to forward this podcast to your husband, and let me give the message to your husband real quick. Fellas, your wife is begging you for intimacy. Your wife is begging you for connection. She is begging you. So when you quickly dismiss something that she's brought into the house to foster intimacy and connection, don't dismiss that. Just take a moment to listen to it, because she's asking for something more than putting down your phone. What she's asking for is more connection. And Christianity Today, by the way, just came out with an article, and I think I can say this, I think it's PG-13, but it basically says that less phone time as a couple equals more sex time as a couple. So there is a scientific connection between that, and it makes sense. And we say sex just to get the guys listening, but what we're talking about is intimacy and connection, and that is a really, really important thing. So the pushback from husbands can absolutely be real. And with the kids, what we have found is, if you want to set your kids up for success, model a good relationship with your phone when they're young. That's the beginning point, is that modeling from a very, very young age. So we have people in RO, by the way, it's a place where you put your phone that connects to an app that gamifies being away from your phone. So we have people without phone, people who for kids who don't have phones, parents will hand their phone to the child and say, will you go put mommy's phone away? You put daddy's phone away. So that's doing two things. One is it's training a muscle memory into the child that is familiar with putting your phone away from where you are. But the second thing, and this is equally important, is the amazing thing that happens when you put your phone down. Heather, when you put your phone down, you bestow value on the person in front of you. What you're telling them is, There are theoretically 8 billion people who can reach me on my phone, and you're more important than every one of them. So when you do that, and that can happen at dinner, this is, again, here's a little pro tip for the dads out there, for the guys out there. Next time you're on a date with your wife, say, hey, will you put this in your purse for me? That's going to change the total dynamic of the relationship. Just switch phones with them. Or when it's dinner time, dads, moms, just say, hey, I'm going to go put my phone in the drawer right here so we can be together. So that's for the younger kids. As we get older, and this is the encouragement that we give to people, is think of this in a very long-term process. Even, I know you have an 18-year-old. So even for the time, for this school year while your 18-year-old is at home before he goes to college, think of, instead of trying to reduce screen time, I would encourage you to think of the little spaces of carving out small spaces of phone-free time. And the easiest one, the most natural one that comes to mind is dinner. And so, but that may even begin a little bit smaller and just say, hey, let's put this here. The goal is not to reduce screen time. The goal is to build a relationship. And so build a good relationship with your phone. So finding those small spaces, in the same way, if you went to a personal trainer and you said, hey, I want to get healthy, they would begin with something very, very small. So instead of looking at the overall metric as the time, I would say, begin with those spaces. Where are the spaces where I can begin to reshape this relationship with my phone? Thinking of it, the core of it being creating distance between you and your phone. So you do get pushback. What I have found, especially, and you mentioned this, is it's an important point you made, was they start comparing themselves to you. Well, let me see your screen time report. But if you can change that conversation, that's not really the metric for success. The metric for success is finding that little space where you can do that. And kids, if you ingrain that behavior early, again, it's a little bit easier. My kids are 15 and 13. We've had RO since before they had phones, so it became a little bit easier. But it's still very, very hopeful if you begin small. And what we've found is you can use RO specifically, you can use as a little bit of a scapegoat. That's the thing that like reminds you it's a physical place. You see it, so it's visual. It makes it a little bit easier. But even if you had a charging station, or if you had, and again, our app will send you reminders to spend time away from your phone. But even if you had something, hey, hey, let's go phone-free dinner or something like that. But find those small spaces and begin very small, understanding that this is a continuum of success and it's not going to switch overnight and it is going to be hard. But if you begin small, it makes it a lot easier as you go along. And you think in the long-term way, it becomes a lot easier to view your success over a longer period of time.
That's good. I'm thinking about times I've tried to implement phone-free spaces, like driving in the car. Hey guys, how about we put our phones away when we're in the car? And the response I often get is, yeah. I just got to do this one thing. Yeah. And then I'm like, hey, you're still on your phone. Okay, mom. Like, just like this, so annoyed. I'm so annoying and so naggy. I feel naggy.
Yes.
So what's a good conversation? I love a lot of what you've said, but to I don't know that there's this motivation for them to want to connect and relate to parents at the teen stage. They want to connect and relate to their friends, whether it's through Snapchat or Instagram or whatever, gaming. Their motivation is not deeper intimacy and connection with me. I mean, it's a normal individuating stage.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The answer, and
feels impossible, Joey. Okay.
No, here's the good thing is this is a hopeful message. This really is a message of hope here. And I think one of the biggest, you've just described one of the biggest, I'm trying to be careful not to pitch RO because this is a much bigger message. But the way that we've approached this problem is to allow something else to be the nagging
like
item.
Like a teacher. Like if it's like,
yes,
there's homework to do. Hey, have you done your homework? No. Yeah. Oh man. Well, I guess you're gonna have to talk to Miss Spencer about that tomorrow. Like I'm not the one. She's the one. Yeah.
And even in RO, again, RO creates an in-home family competition. We've gamified the experience of being away from your phone. So when you put your phone in this box, it automatically connects to an app that quantifies the time that's away. And then you have your home circle. And so you're literally competing against each other for phone-free time.
And then what do you get? What do you win?
People can incent. A lot of people will provide their own kind of third-party incentive. A lot of what the internal motivation that like Snapchat is using is just building up a streak, daily streaks of connecting with somebody, for example, or sending, when you say connecting with someone, like taking a picture, taking a picture
random,
of the ceiling. Yeah. Taking a picture of a ceiling and sending it to somebody else,
streak.
right? That's their form of connection. But it's that, so we use a lot of those social media's tips and tricks. So building up the streaks, connecting a ring. Hey, if your goal every day is 30 minutes of time away from your phone in the RO box, or 3 hours, whatever it is, you connect that ring.
Oh, kind of like the Apple Watch has the rings, like if I get all my steps. Okay.
Exactly. And then the other part, a lot of people will introduce third party, they'll introduce, hey, allowances based on this or something like that. So we've seen people use those sorts of things as well. So that makes it helpful. But there is a real magic that happens when your time is being quantified. And one of the bigger things too is, or being measured, one of the big things too is letting it remind them. So if you were to go put your phone in RO, all of them would get a notification that would say, Mom just started an RO session. Would you like to join her? So it's a quick thing. It's not you nagging them. But Heather, you're exactly right. What you're describing is, with an 18-year-old, and I don't want to, at that point, it does become a lot more challenging the more time. I mean, for younger parents, this is your opportunity, the opportunity to begin it very, very young. And so I think as they get older, you have to have smaller goals. And I know that may sound a little bit, I know that's not super positive, but I think whatever you can get. I have also found in the car, I found one thing. If I'm not at home, again, we have our system at home with RO, I'm not that great with my phone, candidly, when I'm away. When I'm in my home space, it makes it a lot easier. And so that's probably where I try to reinforce a little bit more, versus in the car, it does become a challenge. And again, I would just be the first to admit, I just haven't modeled it.
Car. Not yet.
Exactly. And I just haven't modeled it super well. Yeah. Frankly. So
that's your next product.
I think so. Yeah.
Actually, in California, you can't. And I feel like there's this, I wish they had that in Texas. Like you can't. And so, But I remember when my oldest was going to get his license and he was taking all the online training, he says, that I'm whatever % more likely to use my phone when I'm driving if you use your phone while you're driving. And I think that's if you have young kids and you're worried about when do I give them a phone and all of that, maybe put all that attention on how am I using my phone, not in a guilt way, but more of a, like, what is my relationship with my phone and how could I improve a little? And one phrase my husband uses a lot and I think is great. If it's not measured, it's not managed. And so that whole concept of measuring, I love that it sends an alert to everybody else to be like, this is mom is putting her phone in, or dad. I think with teen boys, his influence is higher at this stage. But I think even he will butt heads with them sometimes when it's dinner time. And he's like, okay, guys, we're going to put our phones on the counter. And they're like, yeah. And they're still checking it, or they just put it in their pocket and they won't. Yeah. And you're like, put it on the counter.
Right, exactly.
How many times we have to do this? One question I had was, you said it connects to third party. Can you connect it to green light?
Not when I said I'm on the third party, I meant the what they're able to do. Some families will do like their own reward system where they put some financial incentive around it. Well, we could.
Green light is where we do our allowances. So you just say.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I got you. Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't.
No. Yeah. Green light.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Oh man.
I think the other thing that I would say about that with the you really nailed it on the modeling side of things, and that's where having the foresight as a young parent is really, really helpful. Is just knowing that I am setting my kids up for success. And I think even with older kids, I think the way you model it, I picked up my daughter from volleyball last night and I make a production. I like maybe most males, I like to pat myself very hard on the back whenever I do even the smallest of tasks. But this kind of plays into it. Like I picked up my daughter from volleyball and I left the center console open when she got in. And then right when she got in, I dropped my phone and said, hey, honey, I'm going to be so present with you right now. She goes, oh, really, Dad? You have to put your phone there? Yeah, I do, because I'm going to be so present with you right now. And so I think it's actually okay to brag on yourself a little bit and make a production again, because it's the bestowing value. And then if one of your sons came to you and said, hey, Mom, can we talk about something? You'd be like, yes. But first, let me put this thing in a drawer in the other room. So beginning to create that display And I don't think it's too late. I do think, even for your 18-year-old, I do think just beginning to see that consistent modeling, because I think that, and I'm going to be way too stereotypical here, but I think that when guys have an idea, at least I know for me, I have a bunch of ideas, but my wife will kind of wait it out. Let's just see if this is going to hold. Let's just see if this is going to stick, if he's really going to stick with this. I think our kids are doing that to us all the time as well. And I think if we can begin to be the ones that model it, especially as they get older, they are a lot smarter. And I think they've seen, for my kids, I try to implement something, 1,000 things. And so just wait it out. Dad'll wear off on this one. But if they see that consistency, I do believe that they will begin to pick up on it themselves. They'll start to see the importance of that. And again, if they start a conversation with you, just saying, hey, I want to put this thing up right now. I do believe, even if it doesn't, it reminds me of the verse, like, teach a child, the way they should go when they're young, when they're old, they won't depart from it. I think it's the same thing. I think your 18-year-old will start to feel a little bit uncomfortable when someone in a conversation phone snubs them. I think they'll start to see, wait a second. Or when he goes on a date with somebody and he said, yeah, she was on her phone the whole meal. I think that'll start to feel uncomfortable for them as you begin to normalize what phone relationships should look like. So I would encourage you, Heather, to begin with this and begin with the modeling. Even though your kids are, your oldest is 18, you got a lot of time to model it and model it well for them. And I think when you do that it'll absorb much more into them. The term RO means to notice, by the way. And that's one of the things we've noted, that we've really observed about kids, is that kids notice at all ages when we are there with them fully and when we're not fully present with them. And I think they become a little bit desensitized over time to believe that what's on our phones is more important than they are. And so this is a cool opportunity to totally reverse that narrative, or initiate that great behavior that our kids always know that they're more important than whatever is on our phone.
It's really good. It's very, very good. And I am inspired, starting with me. Yeah. Just to be aware, instead of only focusing on they're always on their devices, or they have an unhealthy relationship. And I do not feel guilted. I do feel like tomorrow's a new day. This afternoon's a new chance. Yeah. Like, when y'all are done listening to this podcast, you can pay attention and make a choice. Like you said, a small step in the right direction. Isn't that another atomic habit?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And part of it is in a small step towards the person you identify yourself to be. If you say, I am a present parent, I'm a present husband. Well, if I call myself that, then I'm going to start to do the things that a present husband and a present parent would do. I'm going to start to move towards that person that I identify myself as. And that's a good thing. So just beginning, I would encourage, maybe the very first step for people today listening is to identify themselves as what they want to be. Hey, I am, and just start calling yourself that. You're going to start to act like that. Then your filter then becomes like, well, what would a present husband do right now on a date? A present husband would hand his phone to his wife. What would a present parent do right now while we're driving the car? Present parent would put their phone in the glove box. You would start to do all of those things, and you are right that it's hopeful, and there should be no shame and there should be no guilt. Every one of us is on the continuum. The screen time has overtaken drug, sex, and alcohol as the number one issue facing families today. So we're all in it together. And another piece of this that I think is worth noting is we are very pro phone. We are very pro device. My grandfather passed away a couple years ago, and I was able to FaceTime with him, hours before he passed away, when he was in Arizona and I was in Georgia. So what a cool thing that phones have brought to us. But they do get in the way of relationships sometimes. So let's not think of this in terms of all screen time is bad. I think that's kind of a reason why people do feel guilt around it, because, screen time, that's bad. No, it's not, because not all screen time is created equally. Screen time is different from time to time. The other thing I'll mention, and this is kind of a core message to us, is people use the term addiction when it comes to our phones. And I know it's a little bit of a flippant, I'm addicted to my phone, but I think it's important to really name this appropriately. With an addiction, you do two things. The first thing you do with an addiction is you admit your complete powerlessness over the thing. And then the second thing you do is you totally abstain from the thing. Well, let me start with two first. We're not going to abstain from our phones. That's not anything we're going to do. So we're not going to abstain from our phones. So it doesn't follow the pattern of addiction in that way. And then the first thing is admitting our powerlessness. I don't think that's a very helpful thing to do, is admit that you're powerless over your phone, because I actually think you can make a difference in it. So when you believe that you have agency, we just have bad habits, but when you believe you have agency over a problem, rather than just saying, well, I'm addicted, there's nothing I can do about it, the narrative changes a bunch, and then you begin to see yourself as the one having control over it, and then real change can happen.
No, that's really good. And I think I even used addiction earlier. And I think I've even said to my boys, you are addicted to this. And it is a really good reminder as moms to think about our words for ourselves and how it takes away our power to say that we're powerlessness.
Yeah.
We are powerless against it. And again, like you said, that tension of, I can't not have this. Like
right.
That doesn't make sense. But how do I use it and have a good relationship with it?
Yeah, that makes all the difference. And it's, again, I think, just to keep beating a dead horse on this point, is this understanding of the agency you have over it, that you do have this power, and it's not going to, and I'm going to use the exercise thing again, you're not going to look in the mirror and see a bunch of change at the beginning. But you have to know that those steps towards that person you want to become do accumulate over time. You have to know that. And you have to just know your kids are watching you. And every good example is a teaspoon of water in a bathtub. And it takes a long time, but over time, that is going to accumulate. And over time, you are going to see, okay, the water is rising and it is going to make a difference. And you do have the agency over it. And by saying, oh, I'm so addicted to my phone, again, that gives you that kind of absolves you of some form of responsibility versus saying, no, this thing doesn't control me. No, I control this. I can do this. I just need a good system. I need an environment that is conducive to my goals, because environment beats willpower all day long. Environment eats willpower's lunch. So if we're just relying on our own willpower to do a great job, it's not going to work. But if you have that conducive environment for it, that's going to make all the difference for you. And the cool thing is, Heather, every single one of us can do it today. Mm-hmm. The moment somebody listens to this, begin it today and just try it. Try to find a moment. Look for a moment. Look for whenever your spouse says something to you, just saying, I'm going to do that. And then do it again. And then do it again. And then do it again. And then if you are in the middle of an important text, say, it's so important for me to hear what you're saying. Are you okay if I finish this text up right now? And then go put your phone, whether it's in a drawer or the RO box, or you just throw it across the living room, whatever it is, go do that thing so that you can bestow value on the person around you. And again, just in the same way, when somebody picks up a phone, science tells us when you pick up a phone, you are like 50% or 75% more likely the people around you to pick up their phones. It's a yawn effect.
Yeah.
So you can, that yawn effect will apply with this as well. It will give people the confidence to put down their phones to see somebody else doing it. It will create the same yawn effect when somebody else sees somebody else doing that. No,
that's really good. I'm inspired. Joey. You've done it. And if you do want help with the environment of an RO box, we put the links in the show notes. We'll connect y'all with that. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your wisdom and just your grace with me and your truth and your kindness and your prayer. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your message, for what you're doing, for the people you're speaking to, for the consistency. You've done it for the last 10 years. It's an inspiration. And thanks for being a good mom too. Your boys are going to come back and just say the best mom in the entire world. I know it. So good on you.
We'll see.
It's going to happen.
It's still out. All right. Thanks, Joey.
Thanks, Heather.
Okay, y'all. I thank you again, always for listening and joining me and sharing with friends. Y'all are the best. And yay for Joey and this product. And then more than that, just being on the front lines of helping people do life together better and not letting technology take away from that without guilt. So after I had this conversation, it definitely impacted role modeling to my boys in the car or different places, and intentionally setting the phone down is a small step for me in that right direction. considering a one spot for everything to go. So I hope it encouraged you. I just want to pray over us in this topic. So I'm going to do that right quick. Lord, I thank you for giving us our families. I thank you for our small kids who do recognize that they are valued and desire our attention and focus. I pray, Lord, that for our older kids, we could reclaim anything that has been impacted by communicating unintentionally or intentionally that they were less valuable because of our attention to our phones. I pray, Lord, that whatever's going on in each of our hearts, that we would come to you with that we would get to the root cause of the why for each of us in whatever thing we are going to when we're stressed or overwhelmed or sad or lonely, that we would bring all that to you, God, and that we could really find our healing and comfort from you alone. I pray for our families. I pray for anything that is trying to stack itself against us and disrupting relationship and communication. And I just pray for the mom listening today that she would be encouraged to know that every day is a new day and that she can start fresh right when this episode's over, that there's a new start, that your mercy is new all the time and grace is abounding. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, y'all, for joining me. Again, we have linked to a lot of different tech episodes in the show notes, linked to the RO. And yeah, I'll meet you back here next week. Actually, not next week. Don't forget, it's First Friday this Friday. Believe it or not, it's September this Friday, which is wild to me. And I'll be back with Cynthia. She and I have a conversation ready for you. So I'll see you back here on Friday. Okay, adios. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Don't Mom Alone podcast. If you're wanting to connect with more people and more resources to help remind you that you're not alone, head over to don'tmomalone.com. That's where you'll also find show notes with any links mentioned by our guests. Most importantly, I want you to know the good news, the great news that you're not alone because God has promised to always be with you. With faith in Jesus Christ, the one who died for you and rose again, Jesus said when he left, he was going to leave a helper, a comforter, to be with us. God in us. Moms, that's superpower. So while you're washing dishes at your kitchen sink, while you're driving to and from work, while you're feeding that baby late into the night, while you're cleaning sticky floors, God promises to be just as present with you as when you're worshiping in a church pew. As it says in Zephaniah 3:17, the Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He takes great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love, and he will rejoice over you with singing. Now that's good news. Have a great day.